I was curious of like when you got married, if there was a type of like Catholics call it pre-Cana. You have to like do a little course basically with the priest.
Yeah.
And they push at you with all these questions. And,
Yeah.
But a lot of times they are like old school and very sexist.
Yeah.
And one is literally like, your husband comes home from like a long day at work.
Right.
And had a stressful day. What should you do?
You take off his pants and give him what he deserves and thank him for his service to the family. That's what that you did not read that chapter in the book?
Oh, well, funny. That's an answer to a different question I've heard. But the home from work, it was like, have a hot meal ready on the table.
Right.
And it sounds so sexist and so old school.
That's what I'm talking about.
And whatever.
No.
But what's so funny is I've talked to numerous men on this podcast, and all of them are like, there's just something of when I just get home and walk in the door.
Right.
I just want a moment of peace to decompress.
Right.
And like literally they're like, let me just chill for like 20 minutes. I'll start talking eventually.
Yeah. Can't do it.
And I think that's more the thing. It's not even the food. It's like just give them a minute to like have a second. And I feel that way.
Do it in the car, stupid. Don't come in the house yet.
Yeah.
Just give yourself a little buffer. Because I agree that there has to be some amount of decompression, but you're like, you know who actually needs to decompress? The person who's been home all day. Especially in the young kids. Like, it's different right now because, you know, our kids are older and they're in school, but those toddler years, like, there's no decompression moment. You have to come in and you have to like, you're the relief pitcher. You're taking over for this last few hours of the day here.
Right.
And it's just, it can't, like, it really, there's so much of that in parenting, particularly parenting of young children, where like you have to drive now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Shooters Gotta Shoot. I am your host, Erica Spira, and today I have a great guest for you guys, as always. But before we get to our great guest this week, real quick, if you're watching us on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button. You're right there. It's free. It's a way you can help us out. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so it really, really help out your girl. And the other thing you can do if you want to support the show is you can join the Patreon, which is patreon.com/shootersgottashoot, especially if you're watching. How do you think I'm paying for this? The Patreon. Patreon.com/shootersgottashoot. For a price of a coffee a month, you can help support the show, and we have a preview coming up at the end of this episode if you stay tuned. So, without further ado, hit it, Fonzie. My guest this week. All right, you might have seen him on The Late Show with James Corden, or his YouTube stand-up special, Overwhelmed. How to Be Married to Melissa is his latest book. Everybody put your hands together for Dustin Nickerson.
That's me clapping for myself.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
So excited.
I'm happy to be indoors in New York right now.
Not bad. I know. How's your first real stand-up trip to New York? That was like New York spots.
Well, yeah, I've done spots and stuff like but this is the first time I've done a headlining show in town, and it's the first time I've done an extended stay where it is unbearably gross outside. Where you're relieved when some mystery AC juice hits you from above. You're like, oh gosh, normally when a mystery substance hits me, I don't feel good about it. But right now it's just a little glimpse of a little heaven. So
yeah, New York angel kisses. That's what we call them.
Like, I hope it was AC. If not, I have a new strand of something. I don't know what it is, but totally worth it.
Yeah, but I'm excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here.
You were in town and able to do the show. Appreciate you coming here. So I know a lot about your background. I know our listeners don't, but you will be surprised maybe to hear you are not the first man to be on the show who waited until marriage.
Really?
Yeah.
Who are the others? Name them by name.
Only one other.
Yeah.
You're just not the first.
And it would be funny, and if you're like, it wasn't by choice, actually. That was not a moral choice. That was just what was given to him.
Yeah. No, it was my good buddy, Paul Schisler.
Paul, yeah.
He's one of my first friends in comedy.
Paul and I we had a fateful meeting at the Hartford Funny Bone 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at a very ticketed room. And it was, have you done the Hartford Funny Bone?
I have.
I'm off rails here. A lot of rooms are near malls. It's in a mall.
Yep.
It's in the mall. So Paul, I do know Paul.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Fellow loser.
But you are married to your high school sweetheart, which I think that is the first of the pod.
Yeah, take that, Paul. Suck on that after marriage.
He wishes.
Exactly.
Trust me, I was his roommate. He wished. Yeah.
You suck on that after the ceremony. After it's okay. After it has God's blessing.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, essentially, how did you meet your wife? What class was it?
We didn't go to the same high school.
Oh, you didn't?
We met at church youth group, baby.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
which is why I'm so cool. It's all of that energy there. No, I dated an older girl from a different high school. So, I mean, that was actually, as
Really?
far as credentials go in your high school, that's a pretty good one, you know,
Yeah.
because we were and we weren't like youth group kids. Like we were youth group kids in that we went to church and we were involved, but we weren't like the poster children for that. We were still pretty involved in what I would call normal life.
Like, not every weekend was you only hanging out with church people.
Exactly.
Per se?
Yeah. We would we would go to some of the events, but not all of the events.
Okay.
You know, it was a part of our life there, but it wasn't all of it. So, but yeah, we met on like it was like a high school. It was in the back of a church youth group van. We also found love in a hopeless place.
Yeah.
It was a sign of things to come, I guess. But yeah, we met there, and I was like, oh, you're you're a normal girl around here. This is nice. And
okay.
she, so
You were the cool kids of the church groups.
yeah, yes and no.
The
I mean,
rebels.
there's no such thing, right? But maybe by their standards, yes.
Yeah. You were the ones that you were like, we'll actually say this event is lame.
Exactly. Yeah, they were like, they have a life outside of here, which I guess kind of makes them cooler.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we met. Our high school youth group would go, we would do these like service trips. They weren't exactly mission trips, because what we would do is go to like these lower income communities and like rural communities, and we would like buy groceries and like do yard work, and like like adult like guys would like help repair their roof and stuff. And so they would do that, but they also had this like children's program that my wife would like work. They would like, it would be like a Bible lesson or whatever. And I remember like we had the high school guys, it was our job to like chop wood. We literally chopped wood for most of the week. And I would and I remember one time looking over and like seeing Melissa dancing with the kids, and I was like, oh, I like that one.
Oh,
yeah, because she likes herself and she doesn't care what other people think about her. So
yeah, which I mean, you need if you're married to a comic.
exactly. Yeah. That's very, very true. And a comic that writes a book about you, no less.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. How to be married to her.
Yeah.
So I am curious. You met, you were married, what, 2 years later, essentially?
2.5, 3 years later. Yeah, something like that.
And were your parents like, yeah?
Not my
phased?
parents, because I wasn't raised religious. I mean, I was barely raised, honestly. I don't think I was raised, period. No, I think it wasn't, within religious circles, it's not super uncommon to get married. But my family was like, I think that they were not surprised by it, because I was like, when I was 16, sophomore year, I was kind of like, I essentially dropped out of high school and went and started attending classes at the community college and got a job. So I graduated from high school with an AA. I was always kind of in a hurry to grow up. So in their mind, it was like, yeah, I mean, I guess 19 is when you get married if you're Dustin, because he has the heart of a 44-year-old man. I hit midlife crisis at 21.
Yeah.
Just ahead of the curve in that sense.
But both of you being married young, how old are your kids now? You have three kids.
My son is 15, and we have talked about that we're like, I mean, he will, if he's me, he would meet his future wife next summer.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is bonkers,
Yeah.
So he's 15. He's going to his sophomore year in high school, and then my daughter is 12. My middle child, Gloria, is 12, and then our youngest is 8.
Okay.
So...
But would you freak out if he was like, met the one?
It's kind of, you can't, because you can't be hypocritical of your own life, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when he says, if like any of my kids, they're like, I don't want to do a conventional 9 to 5. I can't be like, you have to. You got to go to college and get an internship and go out. And they're like, none of that worked out for you. We're, you're paying our bills on your dumb jokes. Like maybe they can find an entrepreneurial, different, innovative idea.
Yeah.
So.
Or you'd be like, you start that YouTube channel now. That's what I would say.
You know what? We've actually done the opposite. That we've gone like, listen, you can pursue all of these things, but you can't do it while I'm providing for you. We've said
fair.
like you can pursue your internet dreams, but not until you're paying your own rent. I'm not going to subsidize the YouTube dreams. I want you to have to hustle. And my son is very interested in comedy right now too. And it's because he's on YouTube and YouTube is so much comedy.
Yeah.
And part of me is just like, oh, don't do it. He's like talking about open mics. And I was like, don't choose this path if you don't have to, son. Don't do it. Don't.
Is it something like, are they allowed on social media in general?
My kids have no social media.
They have not.
None.
That's impressive.
No, my kids are not on social media.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, my son got a phone. The rule is you get a phone, an iPhone, when you start high school. That's
okay.
Because we held off on that for a variety of reasons, but high school was that tipping point where you would. Going into freshman year already is terrifying.
Yep.
And if it puts you in a weird social thing too. Like every kid has a phone, and they have like other phones that you can get like that don't have internet and don't have apps and don't have social media, but you can call and text them and the basic things that you want. And so our kids before high school have one of those, so I can text them and call them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you get them an iPhone, there's no way you can monitor that they don't just download and make
every time.
That's
the thing. Every time I go into Verizon or whatever, I'm like, hey, set up this stupid phone for me, this like old one. They're like, you can have phone monitoring apps on iPhone. I was like, do you think a high schooler can't find their way around it?
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
A high schooler is the cutting edge of technology. They're better than anybody at the CIA. They can crack the code. They can get the nuke codes if they wanted.
Yeah,
but they don't. They just want to get on TikTok. But as far as I know, my son is not. We have like, I know this is going to sound very controlling to some people, but we do have like some phone monitoring apps that send us alerts if like, they go to certain websites or they watch certain things if anything, it's like a little on the overprotective side. And we talk a lot about. It's the crazy. I know this is not what this podcast is about.
No, this is very interesting to me.
It is the craziest thing the hardest thing. That is like the challenge for modern parents.
Yeah.
Is the internet. And because I say to my son all the time, like your brain, it's just like your stomach. If you put crap into it, like it's going to feel crappy. It's going to be crappy. It's going to produce crappy results for you. And scrolling TikTok or just watching trash or, whatever it may be, it's just going to produce a bad result for you. But it's very hard. You hand a 15-year-old and the height of puberty, the most addictive thing in the history of humanity, and go, hey, have some self-control here.
Right. Well, it always changes because like when I was in high school, that's when texting just started to be a thing and be popular.
Right.
And it wasn't unlimited.
Right.
So I remember like, I remember as a kid, like begging my parents, like, can I get unlimited texting?
Right.
Because I was like, everyone's texting now and I'm going to text my friends and it's going to cost you way more money. And I remember like fighting them on it.
Right.
And they were like, why do you have to text?
Right.
Just call them. And I'm like, because you're around. That's what, like, you're always here. So I can't actually talk to them how
exactly.
I want to talk to them.
No. I need this to be quiet. That's the whole point.
Yeah, this is me having privacy.
This is the equivalent of me shutting a door.
Right.
I don't want you to hear this.
But the version before that was Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
And our family computer was in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
So it was always looked over my shoulder.
Yep.
So it was this thing of like, it's like, okay, at what point do you trust me to just like communicate with my friends?
Yeah.
And whatnot, and not have you hovering.
That's exactly it. You want to ideally, like I've said to my son a lot of times, like you have to figure out how to manage this for yourself.
Right.
You're almost 16, like you're gonna, like he's 15 and a half. Like I cannot do all of this for you. You have to find out to me health is the comparison. Just like you have to learn to eat healthy, you have to learn to exercise, you have to learn to have good study habits. I can't tell you to do these things and not do these things constantly. And then you just like, I hope it works out. At least I have 3 of them, so maybe one of them will work out. I don't know.
But it's also, I think the hardest part would be you want them to be social with their friends and not feel excluded.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this, I don't know if you talk to the other parents, like, hey, are your kids on XYZ? When are you giving a phone? Like, I've heard of, I used to babysit this kid and it was like the parents were packed.
Right.
But it was like none of us are getting them phones yet, right? Like
Right,
we know once one person breaks, all the rest of us are gonna feel pressure to do it.
It's like a battle holding up the shields. Don't break the line.
Literally though.
Don't let him in. That's exactly it. There was some sense of that, but then I think you have all these ideas, and then your kid is in high school, and you remember the thing about when your kid gets to high school, you're like, dude, I remember what high school feels like. I don't remember what third grade felt like. I remember stories and the thing. I remember exactly what the first day of high school felt like. And your only thing is you're like, I just want to blend in. I don't want to stand out. I just want to feel normal and not feel weird. And kids are on their phones so much that they look at each other's phones and like, what phone do you have? And, he had a phone that he got made fun of for in middle school. And I'm like, you know what? You're at the top of middle school anyways. You're cool. This is as good as it gets for you. You can have a crappy phone.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, be funny about it. Downplay. Blame me. Like that's.
I mean, it is your fault. So.
It's 100% my fault. But I've noticed in parenting, I think this is true of a lot of like life in general, but like I like to be somewhere in the middle of the extremes, right? So there are the people who like, get your kid. They don't let them, they don't let them on all the social media. So, they're going to find it eventually anyways. And then there's the other one who's like, absolutely not. No iPhone, no nothing. I was like, I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle of giving them a phone with some tools, with some limitations, but wait till a certain age before they can have it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because it's like, you're not even like a dirty comedian by any means.
No.
And it's funny that if someone heard a comedian being like, I don't want them on socials, they probably go, oh, you don't want them to look up your stuff? And you're like, my stuff's actually fine.
Stuff. Yeah, no. That's if anything, I'm the reason he hates clean comedy. He's like, Dad, have you heard of Cat Williams? I'm like, oh, no. You went straight to Cat?
Yeah. It was recommended to me on YouTube.
Yeah, I really thought maybe you would ease into this with some Gaffigan or something. But, it is. And that is like, even that when it comes to like recommending comedy to your kids, like you're still... I'm a professional stand-up comedian. This is what I do, and I'm like established in our world. Like he'll be like, "What?" He'll send me he'll send me like videos of comics that we know. I'm like, these are my peers, or these are my friends. But if I recommend someone to him, he'll be like, I don't really like them. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do the opposite. I'm gonna have to start sending him dirty clips. Yeah, I'm gonna have to like sending him the worst filth, and then maybe he'll turn on that. And
you're like, I love this bit.
He's like, Dad, have you ever heard of Brian Regan? He's like, yeah. Now we're talking. Only Brian Regan till after college.
Which Brian is my favorite special of all time.
Which one?
I Walked on the Moon.
Oh,
it's probably my number one.
Really?
Of just like any comic. Wow. Yeah. It just holds up.
It does,
it's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, even his first CD I quote, but there's no film of that.
Exactly. So Brian Regan's isn't that crazy? Like he got built up off a CD.
I know.
That CD got passed around.
Oh, yeah. And then my family was one of the families that would see him every year when he came to town.
That's awesome.
He actually used to vacation in my hometown.
That smut and that filth that you put out every night. Yeah, you've disappointed your parents and Brian.
I know. I wanted to be Brian Regan when I started.
We all did.
I know. Yeah. It's so hard, though.
It's very, very hard. I just want to be maybe the greatest comedian of all time. Yeah. Why is that too much to ask?
I know. But I was going to say one good thing, though, I think about your kids not having phones is I feel like it makes them more accountable as people. I feel like the convenience of phones is so easy to just like cancel, change plans, not show up when you said you were going to show up.
Yeah.
Like where it used to be like...
I almost canceled this podcast 30 times today because I have a phone. Oh gosh, it was just so... She would be so understanding. I took her to a random free concert last night. I'm in the positive here. I could do this.
But you know what I mean? It's so easy to change your plan.
Yes.
And I deal with that like even just in dating of like people being flaky. If you're like, hey, we're supposed to meet this day, this time.
Yeah.
All right.
And then it's just, you don't have to, I don't know, what do you have to, you had to do a phone call back in the day? And just,
you had to have your parents call each other. Even like, it's like, is your mom picking up or dropping off?
Yeah.
Like, I remember that whole
I remember
fiasco.
How hard it used to be to like, in like middle school, like if you wanted to, I remember trying to plan a basketball game.
Yeah.
And you just be like, hey, man, you started calling. You just started making calls. Hey, man, Silver Lake Elementary, 4:00. And you call these 3 people and then you just got there and saw who came.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'd be 50 people and sometimes just be you and the original caller.
Yeah. And if you weren't invited, you weren't sad about it immediately.
No.
You'd be sad in school when you heard about it.
Well, there was always an excuse, though. There was always that the line was busy. I tried calling. The line was busy.
Hilarious.
Your mom's on the phone all the time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, true, though.
Now when someone texts you, someone's like, oh, I didn't see your text. You're like, no, you didn't respond to my text.
Yeah, different.
And that's fine. We all know. I know you saw it.
Uh-huh.
You gonna tell me you weren't on your phone for 48 hours? Impossible. I see your Instagram stories.
Oh, yeah. I know, but just the being left out was just so... I remember even in college, it would feel different.
Right.
Like suddenly Facebook was a thing.
Yeah.
And there'd be a whole album uploaded from a party.
Right.
And there were two versions of being left out of, I wasn't invited to the party.
Yeah.
And the other version was, I was there. There's not one fucking photo of me. Like, infuriating to be like, you took 100 photos?
That's hilarious.
I wasn't asked to be in one. I was there.
Yeah.
I'm fun. I was having a good time. You know?
My son does talk about how he's like, yeah, Dad, it's like really important like that you have like good text game. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God. With girls?
With girls. Yeah. It's like, oh, text game is so... And I love...
He is not wrong.
And I love... That's my son... My almost 16-year-old son and Taylor Tomlinson are my connection to the modern world of dating. They're the two youth in my life. And every time I just smile. I was like, what a relief. As the dad to the kid, you have to have good meme game. Parenting a teen is so easy because I have great meme game. I can send funny memes all day long. You know, it's easy. It's super fun. But he's like, yeah, you gotta be like real chill about it. And when you text back and when you don't, I was like, this sounds exhausting.
Oh, this is classic.
Yeah, you should have my son on the pod.
I know. Well,
he's more relatable.
Well, it's just so funny. I remember going through that.
Yeah.
Like in college, everything, Facebook messaging, whatever. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I have no connection to that other. No, that's not true. That's not entirely true because their Instant Messenger was a thing. AOL Instant Messenger. That was, you would log on and you would just be like, oh man. Melissa's handle was Cheermel because she was a cheerleader when she started it. I was like, oh yeah. And mine was Buffy Fan 134 because I went through a big Sarah Michelle Gellar phase. Like any proper middle school boy of the early 2000s should. You were either Sarah Michelle Gellar or Jennifer Love Hewitt. Those were your choices. Yeah,
those were the two hotties.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable! I was like, dealer's choice. But
that's so funny.
But you did have to be good at that. But that was a different thing.
Well, I was gonna say any married person I've talked to, even that quote dated in more modern times of the text game.
More modern times.
I don't know how to say this.
Dustin from ancient times.
I mean, you got married at 19.
Me and my wife met in the Renaissance period.
Well, I mean, I forgot to say this. You've been married almost 20 years.
Yes, we got married during the Great Depression. Yeah.
But what's so funny is any married person I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, all that text game that counts in the beginning. They're like, then you get married. They're like, you want to see my text with my husband? Read them.
Oh yeah. No, this is a bit that I do right now on stage. If somebody asked me if I was like, they'll be like, do you like? Somebody asked me if we send nudes, and I was like, this syncs with the kid's iPad. They see this. That would ruin that episode of Bubble Guppies.
Yeah.
I'm not, it was, and if I'd like, that's the joke of like, if there's any skin in a photo that I send to my wife or vice versa, it's like a picture of a rash. Like, does that look like it's okay?
It's before, it's like, is this worth the doctor?
Yeah.
That's what the text
is that getting bigger?
Yeah.
What color does that look like? I can't see back there.
Yeah.
So it becomes more of like an instruction manual of just like times and, where
picking up?
Exactly. Where you're supposed to be at this time.
Not super fun. Okay, so I was going to ask you a few things from your book because I did browse a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first chapter very much caught my eye of if you like Fight Club, you'll love marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to ask you. I was going to ask you anyway before even looking this up.
The titles are the best part of the book. They're so good.
I'm impressed. But I wanted to ask you, what is like one of the most recurring fights that you and your wife have?
Right. I mean, so many to choose from. It is like fighting. We've been together for 20 years. We've been married 18 years. It is fighting a lot of the time just does feel like reruns.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a lot of new fights. And we know enough about each other that even if it's like a new topic, it comes from the same place.
Okay.
Melissa, my wife has said this genuinely. The majority, I say this genuinely, and she is okay with this. The majority of our fights, and I mean 98% of our fights, are started by her because she says something mean. That's it. That's what, and that's it. They're all her fault in that sense. No, that's an oversimplification. She will verbally throw the first blow every time.
All right.
Because Melissa, I'll show it to you. So her contact in my phone is the is the Michael Jordan, and I took that personally meme.
Oh.
Because Melissa takes everything personally. She is never related to anything more than Michael Jordan going, and I took that personally. Whatever it may be.
Oh my God.
If you chew too loud, if you, if I get up too late, if I say something in the wrong tone, if I don't put something, whatever it may be. Now, a lot of that, it's not fair to say that the fights are her fault, but a lot of that will come, because some of it will come from me not being considerate and understanding. But to her, she will say that all the time. She's like, no, I overreact to so many things. But I was like, well, at least you get that. But then the challenge becomes, can I in that moment go, what she just said is not about me. It's about her and how she feels and what she's going through. Melissa's primary desire in this world is to feel understood. That's her driving thing. She wants to feel understood, which is impossible, by the way. No one can ever feel. It's like if you're like, my big desire is to be respected. You're like, well, how? That's unattainable.
I mean, I've taken classes in college on literal communication. And one of the biggest things was messages sent never equal messages received.
Right.
It's never exactly what each party wants or understands. You can never fully 100% nail it.
No pitch is thrown completely straight.
Yeah.
Right. Like this has got some movement on it, and a lot of time it hits the batter. I don't know if that works, but you know what I mean. I think that's so that right there, which is, and I know this is very generic, that is the source of all of our reoccurring fights, which is something usually pretty shallow, not really a big thing happen, and then she receives that as personal. Like, I'm not considerate of her, I'm not respectful of her, I wasn't compassionate. And a lot of the times that is right, because I was just like doing my own thing, or I wasn't paying attention to that. But the one that probably happened the most for like the first 10 years of our marriage were getting up, because like I would sleep later than her, and that she would take as personal as possible, which is totally understandable now.
I get it, but I also get the comedian of like, I was to bed later. Exactly.
And now all of that is wake up times are discussed when you go to bed. Who's getting up when? Like that happens every night before we go to bed. Like you're getting up at this time, I'm getting up at this time. You're gonna do this when you get in the morning. And we'll hit a sweet spot. Like during school, she'll get up and get the first kid out of school, and then I do get to sleep a little later because I'm a freaking stand-up comedian. But I'll get up and I'll at least get the youngest kid that starts school later.
Okay.
I'll get her into school. I'll walk her to school. And if I was up till like 3, I can go back to sleep, but there's just because mornings are so intense as a parent that there just has to be some sense of like, we're doing this together. Not like I roll out of bed at 11 and like that when you get up on such different schedules, even just like that, you're like, you'll eat breakfast at 10, and then you were out and about, and she's like, it's noon, I'm hungry. I was like, we just ate. What are you talking about? She's like, I've been up since 6, you lazy. So that's kind of a generic answer, but you get it.
No, I was gonna guess like even the quote, reacting or taking things personal.
Right.
Also, just with your lifestyle is so like you'll be gone, and then you come back, and so it's almost like you both have to adjust. And it's also this thing of like not wanting to resent you for being gone, because you're doing what you need to do, and providing for the whole family.
Yep, re-entry is harder than the leaving. Re-entry when you come home, when I come home, and I think that's true of a lot of jobs too. That if someone did the primary work, house management at home that day, then the other parent coming home and then having to like parent, it'd be like, sometimes it can be clunky because you're like, hey, you don't know what happened all day today. You don't know what we've been doing. You don't know the conversations that we've been having. You don't, especially when your kids like have, like real issues that they're dealing with. So if I come home, we say that a lot, like it's a lot like getting into the ocean, not diving into a pool. Like we're just kind of wading in, just like, hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing? I'm going to be supportive here. I'll go take them out of the house. We'll go play on the trampoline. We'll go do anything like that. But I can't come in and do a lot of like parenting, big P parenting, discipline or lecturing, which is a big part of the parenting, or I still have to kind of follow her lead.
Hilarious of, I was curious of like when you got married, if there was a type of like Catholics call it pre-Cana, you have to like do a little course basically with the priest.
Yeah,
And they push at you with all these questions. And, but a lot of times they are like old school and very sexist.
Yeah.
And one is literally like, your husband comes home from like a long day at work.
Right.
And had a stressful day. What should you do?
You take off his pants and give him what he deserves and thank him for his service to the family. That's that you do not read that chapter in the book?
Oh, well, funny. That's an answer to a different question I've heard. But the home from work, it was like, have a hot meal ready on the table.
Right.
And it sounds so sexist and so old school.
That's what I'm talking about.
And whatever.
No.
But what's so funny is I've talked to numerous men on this podcast, and all of them are like, there's just something of when I just get home and walk in the door.
Right.
I just want a moment of peace to decompress.
Right.
And like literally they're like, let me just chill for like 20 minutes. I'll start talking eventually.
Yeah. Can't do it.
And I think that's more the thing. It's not even the food. It's like just give them a minute to like have a second. And I feel that way.
Do it in the car, stupid. Don't come in the house yet.
Yeah.
Just give yourself a little buffer. Because I agree that there has to be some amount of decompression, but you're like, you know who actually needs to decompress? The person who's been home all day. Especially in the young kids. Like, it's different right now because, you know, our kids are older and they're in school, but those toddler years, like, there's no decompression moment. Yeah. You have to come in and you have to like, you're the relief pitcher. You're taking over for this last few hours of the day here.
Right.
And it's just, it can't, like, it really, there's so much of that in parenting, particularly parenting of young children, where like you have to drive now.
Yeah.
I've done most of the drive.
Can't take an eye off of them.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to carry your load here. So, but I get it. I get that that is such an old school thing. But we did have what our we did like, it was called like pre-marital counseling.
Yeah, I'm curious like what the questions were and stuff.
Yeah,
especially like 19.
Right. Yeah.
How am I answering these at 19?
Should you do this? No. Okay, we're done here. No, we actually we talk about that in the intro of the book that like our premarital counseling was with this like older couple named Gino and Rhea.
Which makes more sense, by the way, than a single priest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're like, I'm sure you've got a lot of advice on this.
Yeah.
Fill me in, buddy. Yeah.
I'm married to God, and he doesn't talk back, so it's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, that is really, really I mean, it's hard to imagine a worse person for that job.
Literally,
honestly.
Like deacons are married. I'm like, at least get the deacon to do it.
Get the deacons in here.
Someone that's in a relationship of some kind.
Someone who's allowed to be in a relationship, no less.
Exactly.
So,
anyway.
Ours was like an older married couple, and we had like a book you were supposed to do, and it was like a week into it, and we're like, this is that they were like, this is stupid, let's just have conversations.
Yeah, good.
And that's what we did. Like, he was like retired Coast Guard, and she like, we just like, it was just talking to an older married couple, and that was actually the tone that we wanted the book to be in, which is like, this isn't really even advice, this is more just like kind of conversations. And so we would like, we remember and we were really young at the time, but we remember so much from that, whether like they talked about how when he would come back from being stationed away, you know, and they're like, he goes like, we hug the kids and then we don't see the kids for a few days.
Huh.
Because we're first here.
Marriage comes first.
Marriage comes first. Like stuff like that. Or there was like, he talked about how one of the most important things early on in their marriage was they stopped seeing their families for holidays.
Really?
And they're like, he goes, it's not a vacation if we see them. It's not long term.
That's very interesting.
And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I 100%.
Bold stance to take.
Yeah. Well, Melissa shared that with me recently. I don't remember who the quote was. She said like, you owe more to your kids than you do your ancestors. You need to pour into them.
Yeah.
That's you know, like, it's great. Thank you for what you did. You poured into me, but I don't have to do, if it's not like life-giving for the marriage and the kids, then cut that off. Mm-hmm. It's not only going to hurt you long-term, you know? Now there are exceptions where like, I think what it is what they told us, and we do this a lot, is like, we invite the family into the things we are doing.
Right.
We will not go do their things.
Yeah.
If they're like, hey, we're all going to this place, you're like, do we want to do that? Yes or no? And if it works out, great. And if not, you're like, well, you guys can come.
Right.
Like, my dad lives with us.
Oh, he
like,
does? I didn't know that.
And that was our compromise there. Of like, hey, we're not trying to like be awful to you. I still love you. I was raised by a single dad. I'm still grateful for everything that you did for me here. But I'm not gonna you have to come to us and kind of meet our needs or at least not meet our needs, but at least mesh with us. And we're not going to make a ton of sacrifices. I mean, we do make sacrifices, but like particularly when it comes to like time of vacation, like if you have a day job and you get 2 weeks of vacation a year and you spend a week of that with your family at Christmas, that's not a vacation.
Yeah, it's not
a waste.
Same
Yeah, if anything, that's more stressful than work a lot of the time.
Yeah,
so.
I've had that combo of like I still have a day job now, but I didn't for a while. But when I did earlier in my place of just being in New York, it's like with Thanksgiving is like the hardest holiday.
Right.
So like you get one day off. You get Thanksgiving Day. You don't get the day before.
Right.
So it's like, are you coming home for Thanksgiving? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to like leave early that morning. I don't even get to sleep in.
No.
Or I leave the night before. And it's a big social night where everybody's going out. Like, and I would always be like, can I go to like just some family in Jersey that's like a 30-minute drive? Like, I don't want to make the trek. It's not that I don't want to see you and I don't love you. Yeah. But it's like I got 2 days off. Yeah. And you're going to spend the whole time traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the older you get, and especially when you start having like marriage with kids, that was the full quote, is you owe more to your offspring than your ancestors. And I think that's 100% right. That was like, so my family growing up, we would go to, we had like this lake house in rural Oregon, which sounds nice. It wasn't nice. My grandpa, who was kind of the patriarch of the family, was also a terrible human, but he ran underground casinos in the small little rural town. Oh, sure. And it was all very funny. They were super illegal, and like the cops and the judges and stuff would be in the game. So like every like 4 months they'd be like, all right, Jim, gotta shut it down. Wink, wink, and they would just move the tables to a different location they had set up. And they'd be like, we got new lighting. Isn't this nice? So he was like, he had a lot of cash and they used that cash, but he also, as you might imagine, had terrible addictions. And so most of that money was gone. But my dad built this like lake house for them. And our family would get together at our family reunion at that every summer. And as a kid, that was fun. But then as an adult, as I started having kids, I was like, this is not good for us. This is a terrible alcoholic redneck affair. It's fun for during the day when we're all like playing volleyball or horseshoes or maybe going out on the water. But at night, things get crazy. And one of the first sacrifices or like the things that we ever did is I told my dad, I was like, we will go, but only if you get us a hotel in town. We're not going to stay here. We're not going, because sleeping on a tent outside of the lake house as fireworks and are being shot out of Budweiser bottles is not an ideal environment for a toddler. Yeah. And that was like a huge first step for us and that. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to start doing this the way that it actually is good for us.
No, that's good. And bold. I like it though.
Yeah, it worked out. And now he lives with us. So.
Right. Well, it almost feels like the rule should be when your kids are super young. It's like people got to come to you.
Absolutely.
Like, what am I going to get on a plane with the baby?
Yeah, I think that people ask a lot when they're like, where do you like, because our kids are getting, theoretically, our youngest kid will like graduate from high school in 10 years. And I don't think we'll be empty nesters because that was loud. I don't think we'll be empty nesters because, what modern economy do these kids? They might live with us forever.
Yeah, but the one graduates high school, the other one just moves back.
Exactly.
After college.
Yeah. I don't know if any of them will have left. So, like this generation of kids is not. They have nothing, and so hopefully they like us. But people are like, would you consider moving, or where would you go? Where do you want to live? And Mel and I always say, like, we want to be wherever our kids are. We that we want to give to them. That we want to be like, hey, we'll be across the street from you guys, and if you want to come over, great, and if you want to drop off your kids, great, but you can't move and then be like, now come see us wherever we decided to move. We're in Florida, come down here. Like they're like, no, I have young kids, I'm not going to get on an 8-hour flight, thank you.
No, it's so my mom, since we were growing up, was like, there's 3 of us, she always was like, if you don't want to come back to the hometown, it's okay. She's like, but if you could all kind of end up in the same area, that would help us out.
Exactly.
She's like, because we'll just move.
We'll
come
be
retired
to you.
at some point. And we'll come move down.
Exactly. And that's the fear, is that if they spread out and go to different places, then we'll just have to choose which one's our favorite. Kid and place.
Yeah. Or eventually you hit an age you're like, we can't be making this 3-hour drive all the time.
Exactly.
So it gets hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Which, just sucks, but it's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's another chapter that really caught my eye, and it's called "The Baby is 2 days old. Is it time to schedule the vasectomy?" So this first of all intrigued me. I know you're a religious person, so I first was like, oh, does Dustin had a vasectomy.
I have had a vasectomy, yes.
Which a lot of religious people are very anti, really any birth control.
Yeah,
let alone
really just
vasectomy.
anti anything.
Yeah.
That's just kind of their thing.
Yeah.
You know how Jesus was like, hey, be known for the things you're against. Don't be known for love and being for things. Be known for hate and being against them, you know.
But would you say, like, I guess the church you go to, do they say anything about birth control? I didn't ask
anybody. You know, we were like kind of at least when we first got married, we were kind of in like your evangelical light type church scenarios where there's just not as many rules as, well, I mean, there's nothing as many rules as Catholic.
Well, it's funny people say that, but like I grew up going to church every week.
Well, whether or not you follow them is the different thing. But Catholic have those.
They were never spoken about in this point blank
they were
manner.
spoken in Latin. You just didn't understand.
Yeah, but like I remember asking my mom about birth control. I was like, "Are we not?" Like I heard something from someone else, and I was like, "We go every week. I do religious ed every week." I'm like, no one sat me down and been like, "We don't believe in abortion. We don't believe in birth." Like none of it has ever been said.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's this unwritten, like quiet thing.
I think that I didn't pick up on a lot of that stuff because I wasn't raised in it. And so I didn't know a lot of the unspoken rules. And we've just never, and also one of the things that I like the most about Melissa is like, she does not care what other people think. That's my favorite attribute of her. She just could not care less what you think about her. Whereas I'm, crippled by the need to be loved. And
that's why you're on stage and she's off
exactly.
stage.
Yeah. That's why I don't start fights.
True.
Because I'm like, if you're happy, I'm happy. And, and I'm usually when she starts to fight, my response is like, are you mad at me? Where did that come from? I'm not even upset about what we're fighting about. I'm just upset that she's upset.
You're right.
Which hers is healthier, by the way, that you actually work through that stuff. But one of the things also is Melissa is very like, she's just very like strong. She's very like, she if some church person tells her a rule, she'll go, I don't know. You know, I don't want to do that. Like I'll, like she has many, many great qualities, and that is one of them. And so we were like, oh, I don't know, maybe because we had heard kind of some of those things, like, oh, are you going to vasectomy and birth control? And we're like, what's the surest way that we won't have another kid? Vasectomy, snip, snip, let's go. Yeah. We
one and done.
Yeah, well, we had, exactly. Mel, like we did one of that. That's the joke is like Mel wanted to have 4 kids, and then the 3rd pregnancy happened, and she's like, you know what? We're good. Like, let's just schedule this,
do it now
and get this on the books. Like she was still recovering from her pregnancy when I got my vasectomy. That's actually the highest time you have the chance to get pregnant, though. Exactly.
Is right after you were pregnant.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So she's smart. She's a smart
very,
woman.
Very smart.
Very smart.
Yeah. I was like, I can't take time off for this. So there was like, I took like a day off, and you're supposed to take a couple days. So I was working at the rec center at the time, and I had my like vasectomy on a Thursday afternoon, not even Thursday morning. And then I had Friday off. And you're really not supposed to do anything for like a few days.
Yeah, I would assume.
And we had this like big event at the rec center that I was running this huge, and I was just, people knew. They were like, is Dustin hurt? And then kind of around the middle of it, if they saw me like limping around the gym most of the day, they're like, oh, I think Dustin might have. And I didn't tell anybody, but it was that obvious. I was like, and as the day went on longer, I was just like, I'm gonna keep sitting down on the stool, not on the stool. But
it was, I don't know, it was interesting. I'm curious. We got to wrap kind of soon. What are the conversations that you typically have with your children about dating and specifically like sex?
Right.
Is it more up to them what they choose to follow or believe?
Right.
Or?
I think a lot of what you do, this is the premise of the book, is that I never speak generally about marriage. I only speak about ours. And I would say the same of parenting, that we know that a lot of what we teach them is our life, right? So it's what they see. And they know that we waited. Well, at least the oldest does. I think the middle does at this point too. Like, she's a girl. She figured it out. She started her period. She's boys. It's all that,
it's all happening.
We're getting there. Yeah. It's very exciting. I didn't even know. Mel just told me like 2 months later.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, you and Gloria have been fighting a lot. She's like, yeah, we synced. And I was like, oh no.
Oh man, that just proves you got married young. I didn't have to worry about syncing with my mom.
Yeah. Yeah, your mom was like, oh, so we haven't had a period in this house in a while.
Oh, my God.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. I know, like, I got my period a couple times and she'd be, like, gone and she didn't have stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, Dad.
No. Melissa recently started hers, too. We know.
Hilarious.
No, it was, yeah. So we do kind of, like, know we know our life teachers and they know about our lives, but we do they also know that we met in high school, so we can't be like no dating in high school.
Yeah.
So the conversations that we have, like when they're young, you do have, like when they're young and they start asking where babies come from, you go like it's a little bit of mom and a little bit of dad, you know.
Really?
Like little stuff like that you like that we used, and they, you know, they're not looking for the answers.
No, not when you're that young.
They're not like, I'm not looking for the origin of this species here. So
you just got to tell them before the sex ed comes into play in school.
Exactly.
Because there's always that kid that's like, what?
What? Huh?
What? And all the other kids are just giggling like, oh, this dude don't know?
Yeah.
Oh, your parents just didn't tell you anything?
In 8th grade, I remember in health class in 8th grade, like they put a condom on the cucumber.
Yeah.
And I remember also about that is they, for whatever reason, we had this male health teacher, and his job was sex ed. And when we were in 8th grade, and he got some very cute 9th grade girls to do that exercise.
No.
And I'm like 15, like,
oh my God.
I can't be watching this. I'm in the middle of a school day watching this girl put a condom on a cucumber, and I was like, this is better than any porn I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What is happening? I can't believe I'm at school right now.
I was like, did he think this will get them to pay attention?
You know,
I get some cute 9th graders.
It absolutely did.
I'm like, this can't be legal.
No.
I
I left his name out of this for a reason. Like, there's got to be a video or something.
Oh
like
my God. I mean, I'm partly like genius, but so messed up.
It was very effective. Yeah.
I was like that. I remember.
I never looked at Danica the same.
We would be separated.
Yeah.
But then the condom demonstration weirdly was your parents got to choose if they wanted you to see it.
Right.
And I remember my brother went to it, but I didn't go to it. And my mom was kind of like, well, she doesn't need to know.
That anyways.
Like, that's the man's job. And then fast forward to adulthood. A lot of these men don't know. Let me tell you, they have no idea.
Well, I got a health teacher I can recommend for him that he might be able to do the
I got a sister that could do it.
Exactly.
So I'll ask her.
So we've done some conversations about that, but you know, you don't get like graphic about it and stuff. You know what's funny is we have like talked a little bit about it and had some, you know, kind of I've really like maybe like 2 years ago, I was like on a road trip just with my son, and we did like, it was kind of like, hey, just want to let you know this door is always open.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
This is where babies come from. This is how they're made. A man and a woman have sex. This is what this is. You don't need, you know, and just and we also talked a lot about porn. Like we're just like, hey, you know, I don't even want to attach a morality to this or not. I try and avoid this at your age.
Yeah.
You're not, this is too much. This is, you're 13, 14, 15. It's just not, it's too much, right?
Yeah,
like,
I would just tell them it's not real.
It's not real.
It's not real. It's never like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, you know, we've talked about too, of it just like, that's all fake. That none of that is real. And also like, but more important, you don't ever, the big thing that you don't want them to do is to fear like that they're doing something that they're going to get in trouble for. You want them to feel like they have a conversation. So you have just a million of those little things as a parent anymore. Like we have safe words with our kids that if they're at a party, they can text us a thing.
Right.
And then we know we come and pick them up no matter what. And we take the fall for it, you know, stuff like that.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. Yeah. Like,
mm-hmm.
oh, no, we'll fall on the sword. We're making you leave the party. You can even act like you hate us while we do it. You know, there's a lot.
Kicking and screaming, you drag them out.
and yeah,
but it's smart.
We do our best. You know, what I was gonna say what's funny is there is a sex chapter in that book, and my kids asked if they could read the book, and I was like, no, because there's one chapter. Guess what chapter they only read?
Oh, that one.
Even my 12-year-old, and she's like, yeah. My 12-year-old girl looked at me in the eyes. She's like, Great Sexpectations. That's what the chapter's called. And I was like, oh my God, is there a rafter I can hang myself from? This is so uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever felt more uncomfortable than my 12-year-old telling me that she knows about my sexual history. Like, I told you not to read the book.
Hilarious.
But actually, it did make me, I was like, well, that actually saved me a lot of time because, you know, in written form, you know,
True.
it actually probably seems pretty elegant.
She just like left you notes. She's like, I left some notes in there. You want to go look back? Yeah.
It is a little bit probably like finding like your old parents' journal, you know.
I know, but it's like, I mean, the thing with so many people I know that come from religious families, like, I mean, Taylor's an example, but so many comics that then they themselves are not even just the level of religious, regardless of like whatever expectations there are and whatnot. But then like their families almost like just stop talking to them and kind of disown them in this way. And it's such a weird, like, I understand it's hard of like, you want people to believe what you want to believe, or you feel like we raised you this way.
Yeah.
But it's just, it is crazy to just, I don't know. I think about that whole, like, how some parents could just fully shut the door on their kids.
Right.
And I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I think that version of religion is particularly within like evangelicalism. They're paying that toll now.
Yeah.
And that the, you know, the 80s culture wars of Jerry Falwell and Ronald Reagan coming together and saying we will win the culture, right? These are our political stances, these are the things that we stand for, the things that we're for against, and the most important thing is that your kids believe this. That is you even saying that out loud, you go, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Yeah, and now they're paying the cost that none of them do. I mean, very few of the kids who are raised in that hold on to it. The majority of kids raised in the church leave the church. They don't want anything to do with it because it was, you know, just shoved down their throat. And I think that that's part of the reason that Mel and I still would call ourselves Christians is because she never listened to anything anyone told her anyways. and I was not raised in it. It was more of a choice. It was more of like, I'm taking the parts of this that I like and I won't let you tell me what it is and what it isn't, because that's just your version of it anyways.
Which is what I think most people are doing in religion. They just act like they're not.
Right.
But like, really, we're all kind of picking and choosing. Yeah. You know, I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic.
Right.
I don't consider myself an active practicing Catholic. Right. Like, I don't go to church, but I still give something up for Lent every year. Right. Yeah. It's just like a tradition that I do, which is great. That's something I do, and I'm like, all right. Yeah. Like,
I think that like. So I studied religion in school, but I wasn't at like a Christian college. I went to the University of Washington, and it was just, there is an element of where it just is so beneficial to get outside whatever little bubble you were raised in and go, this is what it looks like for you. This is what it looked at like this time in history. This is, I mean, the idea is, the funniest thing in the world to me is like modern evangelicals dying on these certain hills. You're like, you realize that even in the scope of even the idea of a Protestant Christian, that's 500 years old. That's not old. For the first 1200 after Constantine, we were all Catholics. That's all we had, baby. A Catholic and Christian were the exact same thing. So it is like, it's so arrogant to be like, what I believe is right. It's the only time in history that we've all believed these exact same things. But thank God that he put me in the right time in history, in the right geography, in the right church, and I know the right things about everybody. And so as soon as when you start shedding that idea, it's very freeing into that you can still be. I think one of the big knocks of people of faith and Christians in particular is that they are not that they're not open-minded, it's that they're not critical thinkers. And if you just are given, and if you just accept everything that's given to you, you're like, yeah, you're not a free thinker. You can't, you don't think on your own here. Right.
Yeah. I just had flashbacks though of you being like Christians versus Catholics. I went to camp growing up, and it was like just a 1 week camp every summer, and it was technically a Christian camp. But like, I didn't know that. It's like the brochure's like paintball, horses, friggin', you know. I got to shoot a BB gun. I was like, this is crazy. What a fun time. You know, it was co-ed. I was like, oh, it'd be
that's
boys.
What comedy festivals are now.
Literally.
That's what Big Sky is.
Literally.
You get to shoot guns and go on a forerunner. You're like, hey, did you guys not go to church youth group camp? That's what we did.
I know. And they had like a rock climbing tower, like whatever, all this cool stuff, right? And like, so my parents aren't like, by the way, this is a Christian thing. I have no idea, but I just go. I'm having a good time. And then I'll never forget like the first day we like meet and we're in this thing, and it's very pews, but there's no like cross or anything, so you can't tell it's like a chapel. And it's like some guys up there like talking. They're just like talking for a while. And then like people start singing a song, and I'm a little like, this kind of feels like church. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, what's happening? And then you think you're done. And then it was like, oh, we have to do this every night. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But hilarious.
And they're like, you're praying to Jesus's mom.
Yeah.
What? What are those beads?
Yeah.
Weirdo.
I know, but I'll never forget like people being like, yeah, I'm Christian. I was like, oh, me too. I'm Catholic. And they'd look at me and go, no, you're not. And I was like, what are you? we're under the branch. Because I learned, like, in school, I was like, Christianity's the branch, and I'm one of the branches. They were like, no. They just looked at me and go,
Evangelicals, they love to tell you that you're not Christian. It's like their favorite thing.
Yeah, I got an argument with my counselor.
Yeah.
Because she was like, well, no, you get into heaven if you're Christian.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm Cap. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
I'm like 8. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
I don't get to go in?
Yeah.
I go to church. They're like, wrong church.
They take that narrow path verse very literally.
Yeah.
It comes from such arrogance, though. That's why it's so off-putting. You're like, oh, you checked all the boxes. Good job.
I know. But my mom picked me up because, there's no phones. I'm just gone a week.
Yeah.
Get picked up. And they're like, how'd it go? I was like, well, I argued with my counselor. She's like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, she said I wasn't getting in heaven. And I told her I got 2 friends that are Muslim that are really nice.
Yeah.
And I had 2 Jewish friends.
Yeah.
I was like, and they don't get in either?
Right.
I was like, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you're
crap.
like, the horse was fun, but I'm going to hell. Unfortunately, I'm taking a horse bike ride to hell.
Yeah, man. I remember like being in my bunk at night being like, like she told me there was like some, not confession, but it was like something like that you have to like,
Sinner's prayer?
Literally state to God of like, I am your person or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I remember being in my bunk being like, just in my head like, hey God, it's me. Never really done this, but I heard I gotta officially tell you.
Yeah.
like literally like a scared kid in your bunk.
You had to have a DTR with Jesus.
Literally.
Yeah. Where are we at, Lord?
Yeah, just want you to know we're exclusive.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anybody else. So
that's hilarious.
You're pretty hip. You know DTR.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Is that still a thing? I mean, that was a thing when I was a kid.
It was DTR?
Yeah.
Wow, that's OG.
We're not that.
I thought DTR is a new.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
We're 7 years apart. 6 years apart.
But you said as a kid.
You make it sound like I'm just a dinosaur.
Well, you've lived a dinosaur life compared to me. You got 3 children.
You're so mad. You're mad at me that I voted for Nixon. You're furious at me. No, DTR. I think we started using that around high school. When I say kid, I mean high schoolish.
No, but I'm saying that still is before I ever heard the term.
Well, I was older than you. We were actually defining relationships. And for me, a DTR was proposing to my wife.
Yeah, I was like, was there exclusive back then?
Prom. No. We did 14 months after we went to prom together. We got married. It was like second prom.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you're like, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like everyone else, like every wedding I go to, I like pick things I want and don't. And you guys, it was just prom.
Yeah.
You were like, all right, this DJ's pretty good. We'll hire him. And
we like him. No, it's
like,
good.
This venue,
Can you wear the same dress?
Yeah, this venue fits 200. Good size. We'll just have it here.
Perfect.
Yeah, hilarious if like your guests also just wore their prom dresses.
Yeah. They're like, we're keeping it going here. Yeah. We didn't.
Yeah, use out of it.
We didn't even serve alcohol at our wedding because we were children. We were like, well, if we can't have it, nobody can.
Yeah. I'm not paying for it for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But our cool family members gave us booze.
Oh,
like they
how
put
about
it in the car and stuff. You're
That's
like, you're
great.
just trying to get us arrested on our wedding night. Yeah.
I mean, it is. Yeah, you can fight in war, but you can't have a drink. But
Oh,
we won't get into that.
Here.
Look at that.
My God, Erica!
Look at that. It's crazy. I can get married, but I can't have any booze.
I could carry a gun, but not a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Believable.
True. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all the questions I had today. I didn't know.
Sweet.
If there's anything I missed that you wanted to share with the fans.
No.
Other than this book, How to Be
Can we
Married
talk
to
about my
Melissa.
vasectomy more?
Yeah. Yeah. Did we got personal enough?
Yeah. I think so. We got into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. But guys, obviously, look into Dustin's book, How to Be Married to Melissa. You can buy it at Amazon, wherever you buy books. And check out his YouTube special. It's free. It's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Overwhelmed. Just search him. Dustin Nickerson. That's Nickerson. And he's on Instagram and TikTok at Dustin Nickerson. TikTok at Dustin Nickerson Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can follow us at Shooters Gotta Shoot Pod. And I'm Sperica, Spericaa. And stay tuned for a Patreon preview coming up next. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Super fun.
Yeah. See you next week. Bye. I feel like it kind of was the same thing as telling friends that I always felt like the minute you say I've been seeing someone or I've been dating someone is like the minute it ends, which probably just goes to show, yeah, that person knew the whole time they didn't want to really be with me, but it was like they would be with me as long as I wasn't telling anyone. And then the minute you tell one friend, they're like, oh no, I've been found out, Anyway, but it was so funny of like, they brought this up and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm at a point in my life. It's like, listen, I'm only calling someone my boyfriend if I feel like there really could be a real future there. I was like, and I'm going to be posting him like immediately. They were like, you're not going to soft launch? I was like, I'm not soft launching shit. Okay. You with me? You're on the gram. Period. Because I said to them, yeah, if I post a guy, even if it's just in my story, and he gets weird about it, I'm like, that tells me exactly what I need to know. If you want to hear the rest of this episode, join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/shootersgottashoot. For just $5 a month, you can get an extra episode a week of all the behind-the-scenes content, and we'll answer all your questions directly over there. You get the real juice, you get the real scoop, and you get a say in who we have on the show and what we talk about on the show. Patreon.com/shootersgottashoot.